could just provide us with a bit of a background on Rudiment and kind of why and how you came up with it. It's probably one of the most known training tools, I think, that's come out of your extensive library, and you see it used all over in different parts of the world, different sports. So it'd be cool to
Yeah.
get some perspective on where it comes from.
Well, the actual creation began when I was coaching at LSU in the mid 1980s. Um, I'd always been a big plyometric coach. You know, I utilized a lot of plyometric activities like in place jumps and drop jumps and sand jumps, like standing long, standing triple, and things like hurdle hops at various heights and spacing, and bounding, and horizontal hops field. But I started noticing that I had kids that were so unskilled at landing and amortization or body control or postural control that a lot of this stuff was like PhD for them, and they didn't even have primary school math. And at the same time, I was doing a lot of work with gymnasts at LSU on injuries and return to play and their landing skills and whatnot. And I was also doing quite a bit of return to play with football guys getting ready for the combine, coming off injuries and surgeries. So I was prompted to come up with something that was a little more basic or fundamental or introductory, or a teaching tree to work off of, to use a mastery progression scheme for return to play. So from gymnasts to, they stick landing. So when they come off an apparatus, they got to hit a very precise landing, decelerate, and hold posture. So I thought, okay. And I was doing a lot of those kinds of work. So I started experimenting with my son, who was 6 or 7 years at the time, years old. And so we would do a double leg single, just a small hop, and nail it like a gymnast, and maybe do 2 in a row. We'd call it a double. And could he execute the same postures at landing, upon extension and in flight 2 times in a row? And then we took it out to 3 times in a row. So the progression mastery thing was, can you do a single first? Then yep. Okay, can you do a double? Yep. Okay, a triple. Yep. Maybe 4 in a row. Yeah. Okay, let's go repetitive. And then you could get into various distances. Logically, it was like, let's use very low amplitude jumps and very short wavelengths initially to reduce complexity of task. So the initial instructions were, I want you to jump 10 centimeters in height, 4 inches, and travel maybe a foot in distance or 30 centimeters in distance. Okay, if you can do that, well, let's expand it. Let's go 20 centimeters in height and 45 centimeters. So it's a mastery thing, and you could see how it could segue into normal jumping, through time if you master it. And there's no ramifications on a return to play, like swelling or pain increase or big postural compensations. Okay, let's go to the next difficult task. I knew sport was 3-dimensional, and I always trained athletes in 3-dimensional mindsets. So it was only logical, if you're doing things forward, you should be able to do them backwards, and you should be able to do them laterally. And all of these activities were very close chain. And then I thought, well, we can increase difficulty by changing the pendulum. So the human body is an inverted pendulum. So if you have a med ball overhead or on one side behind you or out in front, now you change the stress on the pendulum balancing act. So we started using apparatus to make it less close chain, if you will. And then we got into commands, like tell people to switch tasks. So double leg forward upon a whistle, instantly into double leg backwards, another whistle, instantly into double leg lateral. Progressions were double leg to single leg. So can you do these things in double support, even with compensation on a return to play? Slowly get rid of that compensation. Okay, now graduate into single support, for example. And then real open chain would be throwing balls to people while they were doing this, or having them mirror a teammate, and they had to react to the teammate's change in function So the term rudiment means fundamental, basic, essential. So to me, it was a first level of mastery before you got into more advanced plyometrics, like bounding or hurdle hops or drop jumps. If you couldn't do this spectrum of three-dimensional work, single and double, I thought it was a bit advanced to go into these more complex activities, especially in a return to play scenario. So that was kind of a little bit of the history and the origin and the thought train on how this came to be.
It's really good because it also kind of lays out some of those progressions. And I think the question that it kind of lends itself to is will you then with that just use rudiment kind of early in the training year to set up some more advanced plyometrics or whatever it be, or is it
Yeah.
something that you'll utilize throughout the 9 months of training?
Well, we played around with where to utilize rudiment, you know, early in the training year, microdose it throughout the comp season. You know, we experimented with a lot of things, and we just came up with the understanding it was kind of like a vitamin. You know, we have it in the program at least once a week, all year long. It serves as a movement screen of sorts. So by changing the amplitude or the wavelength or the rhythm of it, the speed of it, or the distance covered, or sets to reps or work to rest ratio, we have layers of things to analyze using this kind of as a movement map analysis grid, if you will. So we use it all year long. We use it as a screen. We use it as a development. We use it as a reboot of the computer. We started to find that people would get a little bit disorganized after certain types of sessions. And if we did the rudiment at the end of that session, it kind of reprogrammed or reoriented general motor function in a lot of these individuals.
That's awesome. It's you know, similar to how we've been using it after some weight room sessions and stuff, exactly what you just said right there, kind of as that reboot. And it seems to work really well in a lot of different areas. And I think that just speaks to how versatile of a tool it really is.
You know, I'd like to say also it's pretty user friendly and it's pretty idiot proof. If you just landmark what people look like upon amortization or yielding, and what people look like upon extension, and what people look like when they're in flight, if you look at key postures or shapes, you can go a long way with utilizing this tool.
There you have it. There's Rudiment 101 with the man himself, Dan Pfaff. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, not a problem.